Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. Here are the top stories for tonight. China's Xi Jinping unveils his vision for a new global order at regional summit. And thousands continue protesting in Indonesia as the military enters Jakarta. That and more coming up on AWANI International. Leaders from across Asia gathered in northern China today for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization SCO Summit, where President Xi Jinping called for what he says a new era of global security and economic order. Xi urged members to leverage their mega-scale market and deepen cooperation in energy, infrastructure, technology and artificial intelligence. He also called for a fairer global governance system, warning against what he described as Cold War thinking and bloc confrontation, an apparent dig at Washington's tariff war. Russian President Vladimir Putin backed Xi's vision, saying the summit is reviving genuine multilateralism with national currencies increasingly used in mutual settlements. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other leaders from Central Asia, the Middle East, South Asia and Southeast Asia, including Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, attended the opening ceremony in a show of global South solidarity. China, meanwhile, pledged $280 million in aid to member states this year and a further $1.4 billion of loans to an SCO banking consortium.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said Asia must move from being a participant to a key player in shaping the global economy. He stressed that this is crucial as trade rules, once seen as guarantees of certainty, are now being arbitrarily altered or sidelined, citing disruptions to subsidies and shifting export controls.
Now, each of these reorderings was scripted by them, far from our shores. Asia was present, onlooker, at times the victim, but never the author. Today, we have the responsibility to ensure that the next chapter is written with Asian ink as well. Now, we have in Asia that responsibility in this endeavor. Because in the past, what is globalization and international trade is always designed, crafted, framed in transatlantic terms. But today, China and Asia is the engine of growth, global growth, home to the majority of the young, like you, and the center of most dynamic technologies.
Anwar made the remarks during a public lecture at Tianjin University. His 4-day visit to Tianjin and Beijing, which began on Sunday, is at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Thousands of Indonesians continued demonstrations across the country today, defying fears of a crackdown that has left at least 8 dead. Police set up checkpoints across the capital, Jakarta, while the military has been deployed to conduct city-wide patrols. Protests began a week ago against the government's enhanced perks for politicians, but escalated into looting and riots after a delivery rider was killed after he was struck by a police armored vehicle. Demonstrators have looted the homes of senior officials and torched regional parliament buildings over the weekend. President Prabowo Subianto announced last night that Parliament had agreed to revoke the controversial privileges for lawmakers and added that party chiefs will remove errant lawmakers from their seats. He, however, warned that violence would not be tolerated and instructed the police and military to take firm action.
Indonesia's central bank says it will defend the rupiah through currency intervention, even as nationwide protests have spurred selling in the currency and stocks. The The rupiah, which fell nearly 1% against the US dollar last week, strengthened slightly after the central bank pledged intervention to keep it in line with economic fundamentals. The main stock index fell more than 3% in early trades before regaining some ground.
Stay tuned for more after the break.
Ada yang perdebatan bahawa GST perlu dikembalikan semula kerana ada yang mempertikaikan bahawa SST itu tidak efektif.
Isu buruh kanak-kanak bukan sahaja dalam bentuk fizikal tetapi juga bentuk moden yang lebih licik dan juga terselindung.
Kita tengok buruh kanak-kanak dan ada juga buruh paksa kanak-kanak.
Perkumpulan FB dikenali sebagai grup budak-budak sekolah rendah yang didakwa menyebarkan gambar remaja perempuan tidak senonoh telah pun ditutup.
Thailand's biggest party in parliament has yet to decide whom it will back to form the next government following the dismissal of Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra last week. Paetongtarn was removed by the Constitutional Court over an ethics violation after just 1 year in office. The opposition People's Party, holding nearly a third of the seats, has emerged as a potential kingmaker. It held a meeting today but did not reach a conclusion and will meet again on Tuesday. The party has previously said it does not want to join a government, but is willing to give its votes to any group that commits to a referendum on amending the constitution and dissolving parliament within 4 months. People's Party is a reincarnation of the Move Forward Party that won the 2023 election on an anti-establishment platform, but was blocked from power by lawmakers aligned with the royalist military. The process to elect a prime minister in Thailand could be protracted, with no fixed timeline for forming a new government. Russian President Vladimir Putin says understandings reached with US President Donald Trump at their Alaska summit have opened a path to peace in Ukraine. He adds that he will share more details in bilateral meetings with world leaders at an ongoing regional summit in China.
Putin made the remarks while speaking at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Forum in Tianjin. According to Putin, proposals from China and India were crucial to resolving the war in Ukraine. He stressed that any lasting settlement must address what he called the root causes, including Western moves to bring Ukraine into NATO. Separately, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Europe, backed by the US, has prepared a plan to send troops to Ukraine once the conflict ends.
Russia's prolonged war in Ukraine is drawing the focus of the United States and its allies away from China. Elena Burova, a senior research fellow at the Institute of China and Contemporary Asia within the Russian Academy of Sciences, says Washington's attention and military resources are diverted from the Asia-Pacific, where it seeks to counter Beijing's influence.
As we heard on the Shangri-La dialogue this year, the Minister of Defense of the United States told that the focus of security shifts from Europe to Asia-Pacific. So it could arise a lot of concerns to China. That's why prolonging crisis in Ukraine distracts US and its allies to China. So I can't say that China benefits from this because China is a trading nation and China wants to have peace in the world, to have globalized world, to trade as it was before. But after years of sanctions, after years of conflict, China realized that now the new reality comes and world adjusts to work in new reality. So this conflict can distract enemies of China in this conflict.
Burova also dismissed suggestions that China could lead peace talks in Ukraine, pointing out that it is not a direct participant, unlike the US, which has armed Ukraine and encouraged Europe to continue support.
Details are slowly emerging from Afghanistan after a 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck the country's east just before midnight local time. The Taliban interior government says more than 800 people are feared dead, with another 2,500 injured. It has requested for aid from international organizations. The quake struck at a shallow depth of 8 kilometers, shaking buildings from Kabul to the capital of Islamabad. Officials report that houses were reduced to rubble in areas near the border with Pakistan. The region is mountainous with limited communications, so information has been slow to come in. While aftershocks continue to hit the area, rescue efforts are hampered by narrow roads, some blocked by landslides. The disaster is expected to further stretch resources from the war-torn nation's administration, already grappling with humanitarian crises. South Korea has suspended broadcasts of a propaganda radio program into the north in an effort to ease tensions with Pyongyang. This is the first time Seoul has halted the program, known as Voice of Freedom, in 15 years.
The move follows President Lee Jae-myung's efforts to improve inter-Korean relations and reopen dialogue with North Korea, although Pyongyang has expressed its disinterest. Lee, who took office in June, had ordered the military to stop the broadcasts and urged activists to cease sending balloons across the border. The radio program previously carried content such as news on South Korean economic development and K-pop culture. Last year, it reported on North Korea's deployment of troops to Russia in support of its war against Ukraine. The program has been used for years as a tool for South Korea's psychological operations against the North. Seoul had resumed the program in May 2010 after North Korea sank a South Korean warship.
While Venice celebrates the world of art with the Venice Film Festival, a memorandum of understanding was signed between two international organizations. The agreement formalizes a strategic partnership aimed at strengthening global initiatives that promote coexistence and dialogue. Our correspondent Irfan Faruqi has the full story.
Reporting from Venice, we just witnessed the signing of the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the HCHF, the High Committee of Human Fraternity, and BIMC, Baku International Multiculturalism Center, where both top leaders from both organizations just signed an MOU. Then just to give a glimpse about what does this MOU means, it's about cooperation between the two in order to promote the value of human fraternity. And among others, which I would report what does Dr. Khalid Al-Gharis said about this particular MOU. He said that once this MOU was sealed, it is about a shared value between the two cooperation and the two organizations about shared vision to foster inclusive society through dialogue and education. And to further elaborate on that point, we also met with the Executive Director of BIMC, Mr. Ravan Hasanov. He said that in order for them to do so, in order to foster this value through education and dialogue, it must be done through a creative solution. That's just a glimpse about this MOU, and we're going to report from time to time about how does this MOU will reflect into action. That's our report from now from Venice, going back to colleague Ingrid Daly.
That wraps up AWANI International tonight. Stay tuned for our reports on the rivalries, strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astroawani.com for more and be sure to follow our social media accounts. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching. Good night.